On the 42nd floor of a sleek, modern glass office tower in Jersey City, New York, Ezra stood by a vast window. It was December 25th, 4 p.m., and she watched in quiet contemplation as snowflakes gently transformed the bustling financial district into a serene, silver-dusted landscape. Her desk was piled high with investment analysis reports for the fifth quarter, and her office walls were lined with numerous accolades. At 37, Ezra had carved a niche for herself as a distinguished senior analyst at her investment bank. Will everything go smoothly tomorrow? Ezra pondered aloud, her voice tinged with uncertainty, a rare departure from her usual confidence. It had been 12 years since her father's death, a period during which she had thrown herself into her work, achieving a commendable annual income of $290,000 and accumulating substantial savings. Her train of thought was interrupted by a notification on her smartphone. It was from her brother, Daniel, flaunting his latest extravagant purchase on Instagram, a new luxury watch, accompanied by the hashtag luxurious living. Ezra's frown deepened. Daniel had been recklessly spending their father's inheritance, seemingly oblivious to its finite nature. His wife, Amelia, was no different, regularly posting about her latest high-end fashion acquisitions. The previous night, Ezra had received a financially motivated call from her mother, Madeline, who lived a lavish lifestyle in Miami with Ezra's stepfather, John. "Ezra, listen," her mother had begun, her voice sharp. "Daniel wants to buy a new car and needs a down payment." Resigned, Ezra had agreed to help, as she had many times before, supporting her family's opulent spending habits. From her desk drawer, Ezra retrieved a photograph of her last Christmas with her father, taken in the hospital. Despite his frailty, his smile radiated warmth. "Dad, I'm trying hard," she whispered to the photo, then turned her attention to a reservation confirmation beside it. She had booked 35 suites at the upscale Skytop Lodge in the Snowmass Village for $1,000 a night over the Christmas period, a total cost of about $15,000. This expenditure was significant, even on her salary. This holiday was more than a mere getaway. It was Ezra's last-ditch effort to repair familial bonds. By shouldering all expenses and dedicating time to her family, she hoped to foster change. The office phone rang, a call from Skytop Lodge to finalize arrangements for her stay starting the next day. Ezra straightened, slipping back into her professional demeanor. "Yes, this is Ezra. Regarding tomorrow's arrangements." As she continued the conversation, Ezra's gaze drifted back to the wintry scene outside. The room held an air of mixed feelings, anticipation mingled with anxiety. On her bed, a Louis Vuitton suitcase lay half-packed, and a dark green cashmere sweater, set aside for the next day, lay neatly folded. While it wasn't a $22,000 sweater, its high-quality material and understated design mirrored Ezra's personal tastes and life philosophy. She pondered, is this the right outfit? As she prepared for what she hoped would be a turning point. Holding a dark green sweater close to her chest, Ezra stood in front of the mirror reflecting on her family's taste for luxury. Her sister-in-law, Amelia, always sported the latest designer brands, and her mother had developed a penchant for flashy attire to complement her husband John's opulent preferences. Amid these thoughts, the phone rang, and on the other end was Gabriel, his voice always kind but today tinged with concern. "Is everything on track?" he asked. "Yes, mostly," Ezra replied, her voice revealing her fatigue. She had already provided the staff at Skytop Lodge, Gabriel's luxurious resort and one of many in his renowned hotel chain, with special instructions to call her immediately if any issues arose. Gabriel, whom she had met 3 years prior at an investors' conference, had since become a reliable ally and friend in her endeavors. "Thank you, Gabriel. I think it'll be okay. I believe this trip will make a difference," she said optimistically as she moved toward the window, ending the call to enjoy a moment of solitude. Settling onto her living room sofa, Ezra's gaze fell upon a photograph on the coffee table, capturing the last moment with her father 12 years earlier. In the sterile white of a hospital room, her frail father had held her hand tightly and entrusted her with the care of their family. Inspired by his belief in her, Ezra had pursued her education with vigor, graduated with top honors, and climbed the financial career ladder to become a senior analyst at a prestigious investment bank, all by her early 30s. In stark contrast, her brother Daniel had left college after their father's death and, under the indulgence of his stepfather, continued to drain the family inheritance. Together with Amelia, they enjoyed a life of luxury without contribution. Her smartphone buzzed with a message from Daniel. "You're picking me up tomorrow morning, right? Don't oversleep." His usual arrogance seeped through even in text. Ezra replied succinctly, "Of course," despite her reservations about using her own car. Daniel usually preferred premium taxi services and rarely drove. Glancing at the clock, which showed it was past 11 p.m., she realized the early morning ahead required her to finalize her packing. The anticipation of the day caused a slight quickening of her heartbeat. She looked at her father's photograph one last time, finding encouragement in his smile. "Tomorrow will surely go well," she whispered to herself as she headed to her bedroom, though she suspected it might be a long while before sleep claimed her, given the mix of anticipation and anxiety for the day ahead. Christmas Eve morning dawned with Jersey City blanketed in a silvery snowscape. The clock read 7 a.m., and Ezra woke up half an hour earlier than planned, a welcome head start. She inhaled deeply, mentally preparing herself for the day. "Today's the day," she murmured as she got out of bed. In her bathroom, Ezra applied her makeup meticulously. Around her neck, she clasped a single diamond necklace, a cherished keepsake from her father, adding a touch of elegance to her simple yet refined attire. She was ready to face whatever the day might bring, armed with the resilience and resolve her father had instilled in her. Ezra's simple yet refined attire mirrored her persona perfectly, confident from over 28 years of experience and quietly anxious about the day ahead. In her luxury apartment building's underground garage, which was unusually quiet this Christmas Eve morning, her black Mercedes-Benz gleamed under the artificial lights. As she started the engine, the car's navigation system lit up, outlining her route for the day. Her first stop was the upscale apartment on the Upper East Side where her mother, Madeline, and stepfather, John, resided. Afterward, she would head to the newly purchased home of her brother Daniel and his wife Amelia in Queens. The city roads, clear but slippery with snow, required cautious driving. Upon reaching the Upper East Side, Madeline was already outside, unmistakable in a flamboyant red coat and clutching a large Gucci bag. John silently slid into the back seat without a greeting. "Good morning, Ezra." Madeline's voice chimed with a tone that felt more suited to addressing a chauffeur than her daughter. Next, they proceeded to Daniel and Amelia's place in Queens. The couple had moved to an affluent neighborhood despite whispers of their dwindling inheritance. "Ezra, you're late," Daniel greeted her with his characteristic arrogance. Amelia, matching her husband's pomp, sported a brand-new Gucci coat and bag, looking as though she had just stepped out of a luxury fashion advert. With the car full, Ezra carefully maneuvered out of Queens. Daniel occupied the passenger seat, engrossed in his smartphone, likely crafting another boastful social media update. The car's atmosphere was tense. Whispered exchanges between Madeline and Amelia were the only breaks in an otherwise stifling silence. The drive to their destination took about 3 hours, during which the snow-covered peaks of the mountains gradually came into view, their serene beauty slightly easing Ezra's tension. "There, you can see it now," Daniel suddenly declared as the grandiose structure of Skytop Lodge appeared amidst the snowy landscape. The lodge, an architectural gem styled after the Italian Renaissance, blended beautifully with the wintry surroundings. A giant, ornately decorated Christmas tree graced the front entrance, and festive illuminations sparkled vibrantly. As luxury cars streamed in and affluent families alighted, Ezra pulled up to the entrance. A uniformed bellboy approached as she parked, marking the beginning of a new chapter. Daniel's voice, devoid of warmth and unusually icy, cut through the silence. "You've worked hard to get us here," he said as he smirked maliciously, a look Ezra had never seen on him before. Madeline and John quickly averted their eyes, while Amelia offered a sly, small smile. Ezra turned to face the back seat, her intuition screaming that something was terribly wrong. Daniel's chilling words hung in the air, suggesting an unsettling turn of events. "The driver's job ends here. This hotel is for us," he declared, indicating a plan Ezra had not been privy to. The sense of betrayal was palpable as she realized this holiday gathering might not be the family reunion she had hoped for. In the chilling interior of the car, Daniel's declaration that the real family only belonged here left Ezra stunned. The atmosphere seemed to drop in temperature, reflecting the sudden coldness of her brother's betrayal. "What do you mean?" Ezra asked, her voice quivering slightly despite her effort to remain composed. "I made the reservations." "Oh, the reservations," Daniel sneered with a dismissive air. "They've already been changed to just our names." Her mother, Madeline, appeared troubled yet remained silent, while her stepfather, John, continued to gaze out the window, indifferent. Amelia couldn't conceal her malicious grin, relishing the unfolding drama. One by one, everyone except Ezra exited the car, leaving her isolated as Daniel directed the bellboy to handle their luggage. With shaking hands that she fought to control, Ezra pulled out her smartphone and dialed Gabriel, the owner of the lodge. After a few rings, his calm voice greeted her. "Hello, Ezra." "Gabriel, cancel the reservations," Ezra stated, her voice surprisingly steady. "All of them, please." There was a brief pause on the line before Gabriel, understanding the gravity of her request, replied, "Understood. I'll arrange it right away." As this conversation took place, a staff member in a stark black uniform approached from the front desk, his figure contrasted sharply against the white snow. From inside the car, Ezra watched as the lodge employee informed her family that they could not find their reservation. Daniel's confident smirk disappeared, replaced by confusion. Madeline began frantically searching through her purse, while John finally turned to face the front, the reality of the situation dawning on him. "There must be some mistake," Madeline muttered anxiously. Ezra slowly rolled down her window, her calm demeanor belying the turmoil she felt inside. "It's no mistake," she said clearly. "All reservations have been canceled."
"Goodbye."
"Wait, Ezra," Daniel called out desperately, his voice laced with panic. "It's just a joke, you know that, right?" But Ezra had already started the engine and gripped the steering wheel firmly. Through the rearview mirror, she saw her family standing bewildered in the snow, Amelia's expensive boots sinking deeper into the white powder. As Ezra drove away, Madeline's voice faded into the wind, calling out her name in vain. The car exited the hotel parking lot, retracing its path as the snow continued to fall gently. A single tear rolled down Ezra's cheek, not so much from sorrow but from a profound sense of liberation. Her smartphone began to ring with Daniel calling, followed by a call from Madeline, both of which she ignored. Messages started flooding in one after another, filled with questions and accusations. "Why would you do this? It's Christmas Eve. You've embarrassed us. Will you refund the accommodation costs?" Ezra let out a small, incredulous laugh at the last message. In the end, it was clear their interests lay in money, not in love or familial bonds, just calculations and pretenses. As she drove down the mountain heading back towards the city, Ezra felt a weight lifting off her shoulders, her resolve strengthening with each mile. She was finally free from the expectations and manipulations of those who were supposed to be her closest kin. Choosing not to return to her apartment, Ezra instead directed her car towards Gabriel's penthouse. There was a refreshing clarity in her gaze reflected in the rearview mirror, while the streetlights gently painted the falling snow with a peaceful glow, enhancing the festive ambience of the evening. The silence within her car, now devoid of the usual familial passengers, felt surprisingly soothing. 3 hours later, she glided her car into the underground parking of Gabriel's luxurious building. A warm feeling spread through her chest as she stepped into the elevator. She was certain she was headed in the right direction. Upon opening the door to the penthouse, she was welcomed by the warmth of the room and the comforting presence of Gabriel. The fireplace was already aglow, casting a soft light throughout the living room. "Are you okay?" Gabriel inquired with genuine concern as he noticed her arrival. "Yes," Ezra responded, managing a smile. "Actually, I feel relieved. She settled into the cozy atmosphere as Gabriel prepared 4 glasses of wine, listening intently as she recounted the evening's events, the unsettling smirk of her brother Daniel, the evasive eyes of her mother Madeline, and her decisive actions. Ezra, you made the right choice, Gabriel reassured her from his spot by the fireplace. But I ruined their Christmas, Ezra murmured, her eyes on the wine glass in her hand. That's not true, Gabriel replied, his voice both gentle and firm. They ruined their own Christmas. You just protected your worth. Tears welled up in Ezra's eyes, but they were not of sorrow. Instead, they signified relief from the burden she had carried for years. Her smartphone vibrated once more, this time with a message from her stepfather John. Because of your selfishness, you've embarrassed the entire family. Don't ever show your face again. With a resolute flick, Ezra turned off her smartphone completely, severing the last digital tether to her family. Gabriel placed a comforting hand on her shoulder, providing a warmth she had never felt from her family. From tomorrow, a new life begins, Ezra declared, her gaze fixed on the flickering flames of the fireplace. I won't let anyone interfere with my life anymore. Gabriel nodded silently, acknowledging her resolve. For Ezra, this was the most meaningful Christmas Eve ever. Not because she had lost her family, but because she had reclaimed her true self. The keepsake necklace from her father softly glittered in the light of the fireplace, a symbol of her enduring strength. As Christmas morning dawned, Jersey City was cloaked in a pristine silvery white. The view from the windows of Gabriel's penthouse resembled a picturesque postcard, with snow gently falling between the high-rises, softly erasing the traces of the previous day. Good morning, honey, Gabriel greeted her, already busying himself with making coffee. The rich aroma of espresso filled the room, heralding the start of a new chapter in Ezra's life. Ezra had received a call from Gabriel that morning. In his soft-spoken manner, he mentioned, I got a call from Skytop Lodge. Your family caused quite a stir there. Standing by the window, a mug of coffee cradled in her hands, Ezra responded with a calmness that belied the turmoil from the night before. I expected as much. Daniel probably stirred up trouble. Reluctantly, she powered on her smartphone, which was immediately bombarded with over 50 missed calls and nearly 280 messages. Most were from her mother, Madeline, and her brother, Daniel, with a few interspersed from John. The messages were filled with accusations and demands. Ezra, do you think this is acceptable? You've made us a laughingstock in the lobby of a luxury hotel, and I'll never forget it. How dare you treat us this way? What about tonight? The last message from her mother pressed for a discussion about money. We need to talk about money. Call me immediately. With a deep sigh, Ezra set the phone down. Gabriel came up behind her, enveloping her in a comforting hug. His presence brought a reassuring warmth. I've made up my mind, Ezra declared, her voice resolute as she turned to meet Gabriel's gaze directly. I'm cutting off all ties with them. Gabriel's expression showed support, though he asked gently, Are you sure about this? After all, they're your family. No, they aren't, Ezra replied firmly. A real family understands and supports each other. They were just strangers obsessed with money. The two moved to the breakfast table where Gabriel had prepared a simple but heartfelt meal of croissants and scrambled eggs. This, Ezra realized, was the true happiness she had been seeking. I have a proposal for you, Gabriel said, his eyes earnest. Why don't we live together? The suggestion, coming as gentle snowflakes dusted the world outside the window, left Ezra momentarily speechless. Let's start a new life here together, he added, his words bringing tears of joy to her eyes, tears for the freedom from false familial burdens and the beginning of a new, true family. Yes, Ezra smiled, feeling a profound sense of peace. That sounds wonderful, Gabriel. Just then, her smartphone rang again. The screen displayed Mom, but Ezra no longer hesitated. She picked up the phone and methodically blocked her mother's number, followed by those of Daniel and John. I've taken a new step, she said, her expression clear and bright. Gabriel smiled warmly in response. In mid-January, a severe cold wave swept through Jersey City. From her office window, the cityscape seemed to shiver under the icy north wind. "Ms. Ezra, there's a visitor for you in the lobby," her secretary's voice announced through the intercom. "Mrs. Madeline Brown is here." Ezra's hands paused above the keyboard. It was the first time she'd heard her mother's name since that fateful Christmas Eve. "Understood. I'll be right there," she replied, her voice trembling slightly. As she walked to the high-rise building's first-floor lobby, the echo of her high heels on the marble floor matched the steady beat of her heart. She braced herself for the reunion, curious and cautious about the state in which she would find her mother, who was seated on the visitor's sofa, noticeably absent from her usual flashy attire. Wearing a simple gray coat and subdued makeup that highlighted her fatigue, Ezra's mother appeared markedly less imposing than she had in the past. Her voice, stripped of its former arrogance, barely carried as she asked, "May I come in?" Ezra nodded silently, leading her mother to the elevator without a word. Once in the office, Ezra motioned for her mother to take a seat on the sofa in the reception area. Outside, light snowflakes began to whirl in the chilly air, painting a serene yet somber scene. "I came here because I needed to talk," her mother started, her voice low, sitting across from Ezra with a cup of coffee between them. "We've reached our limit." The news was exactly what Ezra had anticipated. The lavish lifestyle funded by her father's dwindling inheritance had finally caught up with them. Her stepfather's real estate investments had flopped, plunging them into debt. Daniel was struggling to keep up with payments for his new car and was behind on rent. "We need help," her mother's voice quivered. "Mom, is this about money?" Ezra asked, her tone calm yet firm. "Yes," her mother admitted hesitantly, outlining the need for monthly living expenses and Daniel's car loan. "Mom, that's enough." Ezra cut her off. "I'm no longer the family bank. I've chosen to live my own life." Her mother's face fell, a stark contrast to the clear resolve shining in Ezra's eyes. "But we're family. What does real family mean anyway?" her mother pleaded. Ezra asked quietly, reflecting on past hurts. "During Christmas, you all treated me like a chauffeur. You said nothing when Daniel gave me that spiteful smile. Is that family?" The room fell into a heavy silence. "Listen, Ezra," her mother, Madeline, began tearfully. "I truly regret what happened that day, but right now, I'm really in trouble. I need your help." Ezra slowly stood and walked to the window, her gaze settling on the view. In the distance, she could see the building her father once managed, a symbol of her past. Without turning around, she said, "Mom, go home. And don't come back again. My life is mine now."
"Goodbye, Mom."
Her mother lingered, seemingly wanting to say more, but ultimately, she stood and left in silence, the sound of the closing door echoing through the room. Ezra sighed deeply as she returned to her desk, feeling the weight of the finality of her decision. She stared out at the snow, now settling quietly on the city, covering the scars of yesterday, allowing her a moment of peace as she contemplated her new, independent path forward. As Ezra fingered her father's keepsake necklace, a weight inside her chest seemed to lift slightly. It was spring now, and the view from Gabriel's penthouse revealed a Jersey City transformed. The park below was a vibrant tapestry of blossoming trees, bursting with color. Holding her morning coffee, Ezra stood by the window, soaking in the scene. "What are you thinking about?" Gabriel's voice came from behind her, soft and curious. "Just a lot of things," Ezra replied, turning to give him a warm smile. "In these 5 months, my life has changed so much." Indeed, the changes had been profound. She had announced her engagement to Gabriel, and her career had taken a significant leap forward. She was now the head of her department at the investment bank, leading a new project team where her skills were fully recognized and appreciated. Contact with her mother and Daniel had ceased, and Daniel's typically ostentatious social media presence had vanished. She later learned through a colleague that they had downscaled from their luxury apartment to a more modest one, adopting a simpler lifestyle. "Any regrets?" Gabriel asked as he joined her by the window, his gaze also drawn to the cherry blossoms outside. "None at all. "This is the path I've chosen," Ezra responded firmly, once again touching the necklace, a symbol of her father's enduring influence and her new direction. She mused to herself that true family isn't necessarily defined by blood relations. It's about understanding and supporting each other. That evening, at a chic restaurant where she and Gabriel had first met, he had more good news. "We're going to expand with a new hotel chain on the West Coast," Gabriel shared enthusiastically, his eyes shining with the prospect. "And I want you involved as an investment advisor." Ezra nodded without hesitation. Her work and personal life were harmonizing into a perfect balance. She felt a profound sense of a new beginning brewing for them both. "To our lives," Ezra raised her glass, toasting to their future together. "Our lives," Gabriel echoed, clinking his glass against hers. The sound seemed to chime like the opening notes of a new chapter. The evening buzzed with potential, reflecting the perfect alignment of their personal and professional dreams, setting the stage for a future filled with shared successes and mutual support.